So we welcome you all to New Perspectives as some of you are still signing in and getting settled. And in this New Perspective webinar, we've got a very fascinating topic, the yoga of conscious sleep, with a very dear friend and community member, Jayashree Blanche. We welcome you, Jayashree, so very honored to have you as part of our New Perspectives program. And I'm Roddy. I'm joined by Dr. Vladimir Yatsenko, and we are both here at the LaGrange Sri Aurobindo Integral Life Center in Fountain Inn, South Carolina. So our guest speaker, Jayashree, was introduced to Sri Aurobindo and the Mothers Integral Yoga in 1996, when she lived in New Delhi, India. And while there, she became a member of the Gnostic Center and was trained by Amita Mira as a facilitator for presentations on personal transformation based on Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's writing. Deeply interested in all forms of yoga, Jayashree trained as a yoga teacher and Ayurvedic knowledge in California. Additionally, she taught the yoga of sleep and dreams. An avid reader and student of literature and philosophy, she has immersed herself now in the study of Savitri. So today, Jayashree will look at the important role of sleep and dreams in the light of Sri Aurobindo's yoga, and examine how the subconscious plays its part in personal growth and transformation. As always, towards the end, we will open it up not only to questions, but we hope also comments from attendees and their experiences with the yoga of sleep for those that have been practicing it or know something about it. Instead of using the Q&A box, we'd like to do this a bit more intimately and informally. And so please just raise your hand. There's a raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, and just click on that at any time during Jayashree's talk if you have a question or comment. And when we get to the end of her discussion, then we'll open it up, and those that have their hands raised, we'll go ahead and bring you over and have you join us here on the panel to ask your question. So very much looking forward to this, Jayashree. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you at this point to open the discussion.
Thank you. Namaste. Good morning and welcome, everyone. Good evening to those who are in different parts of the world. Welcome to this webinar on the yoga of conscious sleep. So when we say conscious sleep, instantly, the mind begins to ask questions as to how can sleep be conscious? What do you mean by conscious sleep? So let me start off by saying that it is a yogic concept. It comes out of yoga psychology, and it is very different from the mainstream concept of sleep. Generally, when people talk about sleep, what we understand with sleep is that it's a period of rest. You've worked the whole day, you're tired, and you begin to unwind as the evening comes, and you say, let me watch some TV, let me relax, take a shower, get ready for bed. And at that time, suddenly someone says, oh, it's going to be conscious sleep, means you're going to work in your sleep, work. And that kind of throws you off, because generally one understands sleep as a period of complete unconsciousness. I'm going to base my entire webinar on the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother and the Integral Yoga. We will pull in some concepts and beliefs from mainstream sleep therapy, sleep ideas, and we'll see how they differ, just to bring in a comparison. We'll look at that also. So how I started on this journey very briefly was many, many years ago. I was interested in dreaming. Dreams was what was the little window that opened up my interest in sleep. I started looking at my dreams, and I started working with them. It began with the journey of reading Carlos Castaneda and how he asks his student to become conscious and awake in his dreams. And it is also induced actually in the um, American Indian tradition through the use of certain substances. And it goes, you go into an alternate state of consciousness. And then you waken in your dream and you have experiences. Well, I did not go into the substance part of it, just to assure everybody. But I did start working on my dreams through another path, which was similar, the Tibetan yoga, where they use meditation. And since I was practicing yoga, that line appealed to me. So I started using meditation to become more aware in my dream state, dream consciousness, and had many experiences of different kinds. That was many years ago, and then I started getting interested in this whole concept of what is sleep and how, and as I read more and more of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, especially in Savitri, there are many, many sections where Sri Aurobindo talks about sleep, trance, meditation, and those different states of consciousness. So obviously I was interested. That's my little story. So what is conscious sleep? I would like to ask you if any of you have really some knowledge of what is conscious sleep. And if you do, then it will help us further the discussion. But since we are going to have question answers at the end of the session, I'll just continue. So this, as I said, conscious sleep is based on yogic psychology in Sri Aurobindo's yoga. And it is a change in consciousness. When we go to sleep, we shift from the waking consciousness into a sleeping consciousness. So it's a shift of consciousness from unconscious to conscious. Now, what happens is the body is at rest in conscious sleep. The body is at rest because the body needs the rest. In fact, Sri Aurobindo plays a lot of emphasis on the fact that just because you're doing the yoga of conscious sleep, try not to stay awake. Because some people think, oh, conscious sleep means I have to be awake. It doesn't mean that. The body goes to sleep to rest, and he insists that you at least rest for 6 to 7 hours. The body has to sleep. But what is awake is a part of the mind. This is where the shift lies. The part of the mind that is awake is not the subconscious. It's the consciousness of the waking state that you carry with you consciously into the subconscious, and actually from the subconscious into the subliminal. So unless we have practiced consciousness or staying conscious during the waking state, first we have to begin by being conscious during the waking state. Because when you're conscious during the waking state, you know what it'll mean to be conscious in the sleep state. It means to be aware. Because when we go to sleep, what happens is there is a fall in consciousness. We fall down into the subconscious. And the subconscious is the container which holds all our past impressions, all the suppressed thoughts, the feelings, everything is held in the subconscious. So when we go down into the subconscious, those impressions come up as dreams. And we just there is a period of dreaming, and then there is a period of deep sleep, and then again we start the journey back towards waking. And so we remain unaware generally we remain unaware in that state. And that's why in the subconscious, the images come up incoherently in dreams, which is why we do not understand most of the time its meaning. And we wake up and we say, that was just a dream. I don't get what it was trying to tell me. Or even we don't remember. So that is the general state. But in yogic conscious sleep, we enter the subconscious and we are conscious of this different stage, the shift in the consciousness that I have now come down into the subconscious. But in yoga, we try not to go into the subconscious, we go into the subliminal. That is conscious sleep, where we practice being in the subliminal or our larger state. And we'll talk about what is the subliminal, what is subconscious. We'll get into all this gradually. I'm just giving you an outline of what is conscious sleep. We get into the subliminal, which is our inner mind, inner vital, inner physical consciousness. It's a very vast consciousness, and it's more aware and organized. So what we do in yogic sleep is we get into the subliminal part of it and we work there. We work with the inner mind, the inner vital. And sleep is the state that opens the gate to the subliminal consciousness. And our entire external personality is influenced by things coming up from the subconscious and the subliminal. Our external personality, our outer nature that is the origin. So when we work with our outer nature to change it with the waking consciousness, we find a lot of obstruction, difficulties, obstacles. But when we go to the origin from where they begin and we start changing it at the base, then the work becomes more easier to work with in the external consciousness. That is the purpose of conscious sleep. So the purpose of conscious sleep, there are a couple of reasons why we practice conscious sleep. One is to get in touch with the subliminal, not to fall down into the subconscious. Because once you get into the subconscious, it is really very chaotic. It's a hodgepodge there. And to try and work there is difficult for many reasons. It's also dangerous. Sri Aurobindo and the mother warn us on that. We have to go with the mother's light, mother's presence, mother's name to work in the subconscious. But the subliminal, which is just behind the exterior self, is more easily accessible. You can access it even in the waking states, consciously, in meditation, in contemplation. There are many methods of doing that, and then work with the subliminal. And when we work with the subliminal in the waking consciousness, Sri Aurobindo says you carry that practice into your sleeping state. So it's a continual stream of consciousness that you carry into the sleeping state. So one is we work with the subliminal. The second is when we work in the subliminal with our inner being, the inner vital, the inner physical, we start creating an independent, we give it an independence. It becomes an independent identity. It frees itself from the contact with the subconscious. And it can work more consciously and freely in the subliminal, start changing the nature. So it is more convenient to work in the subliminal. It is recommended by mother because it establishes a connection between the subliminal and the outer consciousness. The lower consciousness can be worked upon more consciously and changed. So these are the reasons why we practice conscious sleep. So let us look at the first slide. I'll request Vladimir to get to the PowerPoint. and we look at the first slide, which is what is conscious sleep. The next one, Vladimir, please. Yes. So why must we practice conscious sleep? Conscious sleep is, like I just said, it's the drawing inside of the consciousness. And this is necessary because generally the mind of the human being during the waking state is at first too much turned towards outward things. It has to go inside in order to live in the inner being. And by the inner being, Sri Aurobindo says the inner mind, inner vital, inner physical consciousness. And this inner being, as we start working and living more from our inner selves, we access eventually the psychic being, which is the innermost being. So there's a slight difference. It's not the inner being. The inner being is the doorway to the psychic. So it's another method by which we access the psychic and allow it to come in the front. The next passage is what is conscious sleep. The psychology of sleep and dreams is based on yogic experience and points at the goal of transforming the consciousness of sleep into a state of yogic repose. I like this phrase yogic repose because it's yoga nidra. And many of us are familiar with yoga nidra. In fact, many years ago, I did the 61 point technique of yoga nidra through the Himalayan Institute, where you take the attention to 61 points in the body. You put the body into shavasana, that is the corpse pose, and then you relax completely and you take your attention into 61 points in the body. But you remain awake throughout the process. The fun part of doing this exercise, I'd like to share a little anecdote, is that it was a room full of, must have been about 50 to 60 people. And by the time we reached point number 29 or 30, you could hear people snoring. Because, the relaxation is so complete. So, but that's not really the purpose. Yoga Nidra is not to put you to sleep. It is a state of conscious repose, yogic repose. It's a state of deep meditation. But initially, in the beginning, when we start these practices, we go to sleep because that is the body's natural tendency when you lie down. If you worked hard throughout the day and you have a hard physical and mental life, then the moment you relax, you go to sleep. So anyway, that is a little bit on yoga nidra. So what happens in yogic repose? One is fully and continuously conscious, entering the inner worlds of one's being at will and acting there just as one does in the waking state. So there's no difference between the waking state and the sleep state. There is a slight difference in the, like to say, the way we work. The way we are conscious in the sleep state is a little different, obviously, from the way we are conscious in the waking state, at least in the beginning, definitely, before one is finally awake. So we'll move to the next slide, please. I just made some slides of the differences between ordinary sleep and conscious sleep. In ordinary sleep, the physical, vital, mental rest is there. It is necessary for the wellness and the renewal of bodily and mental functions, like we all know. It's really important to sleep. And it has become more and more like an epidemic, insomnia. People are not able to sleep. They're too stressed out. In fact, there are so many medications now in the market, both natural and chemical, to help people to sleep. And well, that is one of the conditions of the human state now. in these times. And we can't point our finger and say this is because of this or this or this. It just is the consciousness of the planet right now. People are going through too much of stress, and sleep is becoming a precious commodity. Few people can sleep. In fact, many people have, I've often wondered about this, is that they have what is called the graveyard shift, and they stay awake the whole night and go home and sleep in the daytime. So that's a complete reversal right there. It throws the body's vibrations and energies completely out of sync. But I'm not going there right now. Sleep is also seen in the ordinary sleep as a very needed break, therefore, from daily struggle. There's very little connection between sleep and waking states. We look at it as two separate functions completely. There's no connection between the two, no contact between the two. Um, Only the subconscious level of dreaming comes up when we are in ordinary sleep. I've already discussed that. We dream from the subconscious, all are suppressed and pushed at the back of the mind. I'll deal with this tomorrow. I have no time today. So if you fall ill, then you have to make a doctor's appointment and you say, today I have important meetings and things to attend. I'll deal with this tomorrow. Well, that little thing goes and hides in the subconscious and is going to come up in your dream somehow. So we'll talk about dreams more later. And then dream interpretation. What exactly do dreams that come up from the subconscious? Because Mother and Sri Aurobindo say that we dream from different parts of our being. Isn't that interesting? We dream from different parts of our being. Most of our dreams are from the vital, and everybody on this panel knows what is the vital. I'm not going into it. The lower vital, lower nature. We also dream, some of the dreams are of a little higher nature, from the higher vital. Then we dream the physical consciousness, a lot of things that if we lead a very active physical life, that comes up in dreams. We dream from different parts of our being. Sri Aurobindo says the real entity, the psychic entity, steps back. And all these different parts and planes of our being, we travel to different planes in our dreams. So we may be dreaming that I've gone to some place where I lived earlier, many years ago maybe, and I'm meeting up people from the past and we are doing something together. So, you can dream from different parts and planes of the being. And then it varies. In the night, we have 6 to 7 dreams. And in all those 6 to 7 dreams, we may be in different planes. That's another reason why we don't remember our dreams when we wake up, because we've been to too many places and done a lot of things. So there's a confusion, a chaos, and we don't remember. Therefore, when we wake up, there are other reasons also why we do not remember our dreams. We'll get into that when we get into the subject of dreaming. Then there is the cycle of the dreamless sleep, which is the very deep cycle. It's called in Indian yogic tradition, the dreamless sleep is the state where we are in touch with our inner being. Absolutely. We stay there, Sri Aurobindo said, for 10 minutes. And those 10 minutes are the actual sleep where the body, mind, vital, everything is restored and regenerated. And then from there, we start our journey back towards waking. And lastly, there is no link between the waking life and sleep experiences. So no need to work towards changing outer nature. This is in the ordinary attitude towards sleep. We don't understand anything about our nature from those dreams. So why do we need to work at all upon that? The next slide talks about conscious sleep. Sleep and sleep experience seen in terms of shift of consciousness. There's a definite aim in conscious sleep. It is to continue the practice of yoga by recognizing the different stages of sleep experience, to be aware of the role of subconscious and subliminal in sleep and dream states, then the significance of dreamless sleep, and understanding what yogic repose. And this point, in the next slide, we are going to go into what the Upanishads have to tell us. It's very interesting, and I'm going to be requesting Vladimir to throw more light on this part from the Upanishads. And last, the aim of conscious sleep is a continuity of waking consciousness in sleep. And that is why it is spiritual work. May we go to the next slide, please? I hope people are getting all their questions ready. I'm looking forward to some interactive discussions after this. And the next one, what is meant by a spiritual tool? Why is conscious sleep a spiritual tool? A tool is a means to an end. We use the tool to acquire, to achieve an aim. So conscious sleep, as we just said, is a tool which is used to acquire a state of yogic equanimity, to reach the inner being, that is the psychic, through the subliminal. So you can see it's an important tool because it works in stages. We have, in a toolbox, generally you have many kinds of implements there, which are used for different stages of creative work, whether it's carpentry, mechanics, or whatever. So in our toolbox, in our spiritual kit, the tool that we use, there are different tools for different stages of consciousness. There are different tools for the subconscious, for the subliminal, which is the inner vital, inner mind, inner physical consciousness, and then the ultimate is to reach the psychic. So we have to look at our practice in a very wise way. What do I mean by that? Mother says, develop your intention, your aspiration, your will. We have not only to develop these things, we have to purify them. And as we go deeper into the course, we are going to work with these tools. How are we going to use these tools for implementation in the inner worlds? If I go into my inner world with an impure understanding, or with an understanding which has, what do I mean by an impure understanding? It is, our understanding is due to reason. We use reason to understand, for example, and the reason we use, Sri Aurobindo says, reason is not a tool, not a reliable tool, because you can reason on both sides of a topic. If you are against a topic, you can bring up all the reasons which will support your stand. And if you're for something, you can again use reason. So reason is a tool which plays both games. So in understanding, when we use reason, which is an unreliable tool, you can see exactly right at the base, the understanding is flawed. So when we go into the inner worlds with a flawed or an understanding which is not really very clear, then we do not come out with a very clear concept of ourselves. So we're going to work with all that. I don't want to get into it in detail now. So we must use our tools very diligently. What does it mean to look at sleep as a practice towards growth of consciousness? I've covered this, that, we use sleep to grow in our consciousness because we begin to understand, we gain knowledge is the main thing. We gain knowledge of how the subconscious and the subliminal, these are the two vast areas that we are going to work in to become conscious. The next point is the fourfold states of consciousness. And this is where I'll ask Vladimir to please throw more light from the Upanishad, the Mandukya Upanishad, I think specifically we are looking at today. Just a brief introduction to it, because we'll go into all these things in detail later, but still, Vladimir, would you please?
Yes, thank you, Jayashree. It is a very systematic, a very beautiful presentation until now. And Mandukya Upanishad deals with this as 3 or even 4 levels of consciousness. I have a slide for it, even I can project in case it is helpful. Wait a minute. Here it is. You can see the slide. The structures of consciousness in the Mandukya Upanishad. It is the shortest Upanishad, actually. Only 12 verses. There is another very short is Isha Upanishad, 18 verses. This is the shortest among all Upanishads. And so it speaks about 4 stages or 4 states of consciousness. First is Jagrata, wakeful state. The outer consciousness, Bahish Prajna, is used, the term is used. Swapna, the dream consciousness, dream-like state, which is called Antav Prajna, inner awareness, inner perception, with dreams being dreamed in that state. And the third level is Prajna, a dream without dreaming, pure perception, not marred by the dreams coming from the interaction of the outer or inner worlds. So there is pure perception, and it is also compared with the Lord himself, or the Purusha, yes, pure witness, which is not engaged in the imagery which is witnessing. So it is staying within itself. And finally, the transcendent consciousness, Turiya, which is neither Bahish Prajna, outer consciousness, nor Antav Prajna, nor both of them, and not even Prajna, pure perception, neither of these. It is some transcendental state which is transcending them all and embraces them all. And this is quite interesting, the state of Brahman, as it were. So this is the idea of Mandukya. So I come back to your presentation, Jayashree.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vladimir. That was really very nice, very helpful.
And
So,
just before you start again, Jayashree, just to remind people, instead of using the Q&A box to write your questions, just raise your hand. There's a little icon at the bottom, and then we'll open the mic and have you actually ask Jayashree the question live later. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Radhe. Thank you, Vladimir. That was really very, very significant and helpful. And we will be going deeper into these states, the fourfold states from the Mandukya and other Upanishads too. The last point in the slide is the inner and outer being. And therefore, conscious sleep is used to integrate the inner being. Sri Aurobindo says, we are all 2 beings. One is an inner self and one is an outer self, in very simple terms. And the inner self is the actual field of work, the area of work. The outer is all, as we can all vouch for, and we have ample proof. We all live in the outer consciousness. We know what it is made of. It's the external world. It is where the senses are constantly drawn out, and the mind, which is the sixth sense, all drawn out towards the external. So there is generally no connection between these two. But through conscious sleep, through the yoga of conscious sleep, we are going to build the bridge to the inner being, the true inner being, and see how they can be integrated. That is the aim of integral yoga. And then we have the next slide, which is summing up here. The foundation of yoga, Sri Aurobindo says that the foundation of yoga is to be conscious. We know that. But conscious as what? Only in the waking nature. And that we know how difficult it is. It's so difficult to be conscious throughout the day. In Savitri, Satyavan tells Savitri when he meets her that when I was conscious of the world, I forgot the self. And when I remembered the self, I forgot the world. And that is absolutely clear terms how we experience. When we are in the inner self, which happens when we are in meditation, when we are sitting quiet, when we are reading Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, when we are sleeping, that's when we are in our inner selves. But how do we connect the two? The foundation of yoga is to be conscious in both these parts. Therefore, a knowledge is needed. We have to know what it is that we need to connect and how. What is the nature of that subconscious and subliminal parts? Because our outer nature is completely influenced. All our ideas, our suggestions, our urge to action, all comes from the inner being. It's not our mind, external mind, that is doing that. The source, the origin is in the inner being. And they send out these little things into the external nature, and we take it up and we use it in our daily life. Then dreams and their role in self-transformation is what we discussed a little bit about. We'll talk more about dreams tomorrow, actually. And then lastly, the dream experience as a means of self-knowledge. How through our dreams, generally we begin with the dreams of the vital, the lower vital, and then how we use the imagery and the symbolism that comes up, and what Sri Aurobindo and the Mother have to say about it. We're going to look at that more in detail tomorrow, but I've already touched a little bit on this dream thing today. So I'll close lastly with the last slide, which is words of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. The first passage is from the book called The Yoga of Sleep and Dreams. From the spiritual standpoint, our waking state is an unconscious slumber. The aim of sadhana is to wake up from our normal unconscious state, which we euphemistically call the waking state, in order to become conscious of our subliminal depths and superconscient heights. The subliminal in its lower reaches touches the subconscious, and in the higher reaches, it touches the superconscient. Sleep opens the door to these deeper and higher parts of our being, and is thus potentially an aid in sadhana. Second extract. The consciousness always falls below the level of what one has gained in the day, due to the pull of the subconscious inertia, also known as tamas. Therefore, there is the need to continue the sadhana in sleep and keep the thread of progress intact. Mother says that in doing so, it has a double effect. A negative effect, it prevents you from falling backwards, losing whatever you have gained. And a positive effect, you make some progress. So thank you. With that, I will end my little presentation, the introduction to conscious sleep, and open it up to if there are questions or.
Good, Jayashree, thank you so much. That was very, very interesting and intriguing, and to understand that, gosh, we could be doing sadhana 24/7, right, to help develop this link between the inner and the outer, and eventually the psyche. So very wonderful. And we do have a couple hands raised. So I think Navet had a question first. So Navet, I'm just going to promote you to panelist, and if you can accept, and as you come over, just open your mic, and if you're comfortable, also your video, and ask Jayashree your question. And typically, this just takes a second for somebody to come over, so we'll give Navet a minute here. Oh, Jan's coming over too. Okay, so we'll also and both. Perfect. So Navet, if you want to go first, we also have Jan Maslow and Don Solomon on the call. But Navet, could you ask Jayashree your question, or share your experience and thoughts on yogic sleep, please? And you don't have to unmute yourself at the bottom. There's a little mic. You'll just have to click on so we can. There you go.
Hi to everyone.
Hi,
I have some questions about this. When we do Yog Nidra, when we try to enter the sleep consciously, how do we ensure that we are entering the subliminal and not the subconscient? And what are the indicators for that?
Very good question. Very, very good question. Thank you for asking that. Sri Aurobindo says that it is natural and normal to fall into the subconscious for ordinary human beings, those who have not done any form of yogic practice. So I'll begin from there. What happens when we fall into what is called falling into the subconscious is you go through the stages of sleep, where there's the first, there is the small passage where your senses are slowly becoming calming down, no longer working, the mind is slowly calming down, all that. And then you go to sleep, and then you begin the dream state, where the dreams that come up are inexplicable to the waking mind, because they're just images, symbols that are trying to tell a story. So that's how, on recall, you know that you are in the subconscious. You will be conscious that you are in the subconscious if you're conscious in sleep. Then you will know that, oh, these dreams that I'm seeing right now are from the subconscious, because they are images from, for instance, I'll be more concrete. I may dream, my children are all grown up and well settled now, but I may dream that I'm playing with my children and they are little still. And we are in a house where I used to live when I first got married. So I know that I'm in the subconscious, because these are things coming up from the past, and it's just a chaotic images and symbols. My love for my children, I'm indulging with them, playing with. That's how I know that I'm in the subconscious. However, from a yogic perspective, I will be aware that this is coming up from my subconscious, this dream. And therefore, this subconscious dream, which is giving me a message that I'm still stuck in the past. That is the message that's coming up. That I'm still stuck in the past. I haven't let my children go. I still see them, even though they are adults, I still see them as my children and behave with them accordingly. So this entire belief system, my dream has told me, and I need to let it go. So in my waking consciousness, I work with that. I work with that. And the next time, Sri Aurobindo says, these dreams begin to weaken their hold on you, which means that it takes, it may happen at one instance, and then it may happen very, very, the word I want to use is like, as though it's like forming in a mist after many, many months or weeks, by which I know it is already weakening its hold. And in the outer nature, my attitude, I'm working on my attitude for change. So I will know. And then the subliminal dreaming is not a dream, it's an experience. So when I'm dreaming from the subliminal, I don't forget those dreams. I don't have to make a conscious effort to remember them as I would to remember a subconscious dream. That is the other difference. And the subliminal dream will have a deeper impact, and I'll come away with a solution. I'll come away. You see, it's a whole consciousness you carry into the dream state. If you've worked on your consciousness in the waking state, when you are, whether you come down to the subconscious, you're conscious, or you're in the subliminal, you're conscious. Basically, it depends on how much you worked with your consciousness in the waking state. To the extent you're conscious in the waking state, Sri Aurobindo says, to that extent you'll be conscious. So even if you're in the subconscious, you'll know that this is a subconscious dream, and you'll treat it as such. I hope that answered your question somewhat.
Yes, yes. And I just want to find out, sometimes I have dreams in the morning and they are very symbolic. They tell me what is going to happen on the day.
Yes.
Are these part of subliminal or it is subconscious?
No, it is the subliminal. We will be taking this part up definitely when we talk on dreams. Is Sri Aurobindo says that we dream from different parts of our being. So there is a time towards the morning. We always remember our dreams as we are coming out from our sleeping state. They are closer to our mind, they are fresher, we remember them more. And it is possible at that point to come, because the subliminal consciousness is just behind our waking consciousness. So a dream that you dream in the subliminal, you will remember when on waking.
I just one last question. Like when we do yoga nidra in the morning after asanas
Correct.
and pranayams, it's easier.
Yes.
But at night, what happens? One feels sleepy.
Yes.
They're not able to remain conscious. How to overcome those things?
So practice. Practice, practice, practice. Yoga Nidra must be done in the morning, actually, after you have woken up from sleep, or during the day when you are not really tired and ready to go to sleep. Yoga Nidra is not a tool to sleep. Like you have actually worked with that, I can see. It is, I always used to practice it in the morning. And it's the best way to practice it. So it's just practice. And the more you practice that, you'll start seeing that each 61 points in the body, you start becoming actually very subliminally conscious in those points. That is the aim of Yoga Nidra. That is yogic repose.
But at night, before sleeping, we need to be conscious. I'm talking about that time.
Oh, that time. The best practice to do at that time is meditation and aspiration. To meditate on the mother's force, to aid you to be conscious in sleep. That's how I do it. There's a whole preparation that goes before you go to sleep. And mother says, don't sleep when you're tired. So if you're tired, practice not to sleep at that time. Try not to sleep at that time. It's better to read something, listen to music, just relax. Basically, relaxation is key. Not
And
to-
I'll just jump in here a
Thank you.
second and just
Thank you.
mention, because there's so much that Jayashree, so much experience and knowledge and research that she's done in this area, that we will be announcing at the end, and also sending out an email that she is developing a course that is likely to be about a 10-week course, 1 hour a week, where we can really dive into this and actually work and experience and develop kind of techniques to help us use sleep as a yogic way for progression. And also I'll mention before moving to Dawn, is that tomorrow at 10 o'clock, there is a 1 hour period that we have a Sunday Sangha, and we have a small community that comes together, and you all are welcome that are on this call to join. It was, the link was in an email, but I'll also put it in the chat box, and Jayashree will be sharing more, and will be a chance to again ask more questions, discussions, comments. So we hope you will join us. And with that, Jayashree, I'm going to just ask Don if he's here, if he could open his mic and video and make any comments or questions.
Sure. Thank you, Navneet, for asking your questions.
Thank you so much.
Jayashree, thank you so much. That was a beautiful presentation. Thank you, Vladimir, also. You know, I've conducted research on yogic sleep and just prepared a sleep course last year. And I learned something very new today about subliminal, connecting with the subliminal during the day. And I'm really eager, I'm really now excited to apply that. So thank you. I just wanted to say one thing. This relates to Navneet's question too. I stayed at the Himalayan Institute for a month back in the mid-'80s, and we learned 61 points.
Yes.
And my experience, the first thing was that it was a profound tool for physical pain. That doing 61 points was actually cured some severe back pain I had at the time.
Oh, beautiful.
Now, the other thing, which is really interesting, is I noticed, yes, I had the experience also where, you know, 0.30, 0.31, people were snoring. But if you practice, one thing for everybody, at swamij.com, Swami J, that's it, just swamij.com. There's an excellent recording, very good recording of 61 points. He's a teacher in the Himalayan Institute, and you just go on his site, and he has hundreds of pages, and search for it, you'll find it. So here's what I found, and I want to inspire everyone to learn this practice. I noticed after some weeks of practicing that reliably, somewhere around the 35th or 40th point, that my state began to shift. And I've learned since that the way scientists define stage 1 sleep, there's actually still thoughts, but your brain waves switch from faster to slower waves. And if you do 61 points regularly, you'll begin to know precisely when stage 1 sleep, you recognize it right away. And a very interesting sleep way for using 61 points to become conscious is that you stay with it, you don't fall asleep. If you stay with it, you will see very clearly that images from the subliminal start to form. And you're sort of in a half awake state, and the nature of your thoughts begin to change from waking type thoughts. They become much more luminous. And you can get, I've worked with people who haven't done yoga very long, but they've worked with 61 points for a couple of months, and they learn to recognize stage 1, and then on the verge of stage 2 sleep. And if you stay awake at that point, you can go directly into the dreams and be conscious in the dreams.
Thank you.
So I would strongly recommend 61 points is my go-to exercise for people with insomnia. It's great for insomnia. Now I would agree, by the way, if you fall asleep, it's great to do it in the morning or in the afternoon. But if you meditate, and what you said was so important, to meditate, aspire, open mother's presence. And then I find when I lie down after the meditation and do 61 points, that can really contribute at that point. If you've practiced for a while, contributes to a much more conscious sleep.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. That was very valuable.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Don. And as probably all can tell, Don has spent decades in this topic of sleep and yogic sleep, both in research and practicing and developing techniques. So we are hoping in the future that both Don and Jayashree will come together and kind of compare and contrast notes and come up with a synthesis of various important points and techniques in this area. So looking forward to it. Shiv, we'll go to you next if you want to unmute yourself.
Namaste.
Comfortable
Thank you
showing
for
your
such a, yes, thank you for such a great presentation. It was really good. I just have two questions. In Mr. Kukureja's answer, you mentioned two things that you're explaining about the dreaming your kids when they were small. So, and then at that time you said, then I have to work on that. Can you elaborate on that? That if you see something like that and you said in the waking state, I have to work on that. What do you mean by that? And my second question is, same thing I had in my mind, that if I want to sleep at night and be conscious, so in that case, you said there's a lot of preparation needed. Can you just elaborate a little bit if possible? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Shiv. I can't see you, and that's a disadvantage, but that's totally up to you.
Yes. Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's always nice to see you face to
Yes. Yes.
So your first question said that how do you work upon what you saw in my, that dream?
Yes. Yes.
So when it's not as though I haven't had these subconscious dreams and remained unconscious about their messages. I have. Like most, when I first started my journey, I really didn't know what to make of these dreams. But as I started to work on being conscious in my sleep, when I woke up, a couple of things happened. One of them is that I began to remember the dream. And I started, mother says, set an intention to wake up during the night. So 3-4 times during the night after a dream, I would set an intention and I would wake up. It's amazing when you send a message to the subconscious, and this is what we are going to work on, these techniques, how the subconscious responds. So if I slept at say 10 o'clock and said I want to wake up at 11:30, I would wake up at 11:30 or close to 12, and I'd remember the dream and I'd write it down. At that point, I just record it and put it away, go back to sleep. Because I was had started working consciously, setting intention, aspiring, bringing the mother's force into my nights, that's why these changes happened. Then in the morning when I read that, and I thought, what is this telling me? I realized that it was telling me, giving me a message. It was not just a chaotic coming together of images. It was giving me a message. Every dream gives you a message, more or less. And then I said, okay, so I need to work on letting this go. I cannot hold my children captive emotionally. I need to release them. And therefore, next time when they started telling me about their problems and unexpectedly waiting for me to provide a solution, because I had done that in the past, I just told them, you know what, let's pray about it. And I'm sure you'll find the answer, because the answer you find will be the answer that will work for you. Don't wait for me to tell you. So they understood now that they were on their own. And I understood that it was such a beautiful release I felt to let them go. And the trust in that mother will take care of that. She's the divine universal mother.
Yes.
My role is very tiny as a biological mother. I cannot hope to extend it forever. I will not be there forever. So the surrender came easily. And I saw things worked out better for them.
So when you're saying that you remember the dream and you wrote it down,
yes.
So was that was from subconscious, but it was the term you're using, the subliminal.
Yes.
Were you like like conscious at that time, but you are seeing. So how will you classify that? Not classify is not the right word. How will you see that? Like, is it a subliminal actually, or it is a subconscious?
Yeah, it's a subconscious dream because it was dealing with the past.
Okay.
A subliminal dream is an experience. It's not, we call it a dream maybe, but it's more in the nature of a vision or a lucid dream.
Okay.
So it's a higher form of dreaming where you're conscious and you actually get sometimes prophetic messages.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
something that is about to happen, you will see in the subliminal.
Okay. Got it.
So the
Thank you.
nature of dreaming is different in the subliminal, and you get to know this difference because you're conscious.
So for the preparation of that, like if we fall asleep or going to sleep, and at that time, as you said, there is a lot of preparation needed. So that is a part of the preparation, that surrender, aspiration, and then have, okay, I will wake up in 2 hours, and if I see something, I write it down. So
Yes.
that means the sleep is being conscious.
Yes.
But as I have read, or we should try, if we are like in sadhana or we are thinking about mother all during the daytime, if we want to continue with the same thing in sleep, so how that can be done?
You see, it is not as though that you just aspire before sleeping. Throughout the day, it becomes part of your consciousness to be in a state of aspiration, to be in a state of aspiration, to be in a state of surrender. It has to be something that is progressive and continuous.
Okay.
And Mother and Sri Aurobindo have said, to be conscious in sleep takes a long time. You have to be patient, diligent, and continue. Don't give up. Like I said, I worked many years.
Yes.
You have to be very, very patient with yourself because you are changing many lifetimes of programming.
Yes. Yes.
So it doesn't happen over a few weeks.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Very nicely explained, and very put it in a very simple words. Thank you so much. It was great.
And before we move to Jayashree, Jayashree's sister, I'm hoping, Don, I don't know if you saw the message there. We did have a question in the Q&A box. Maybe you answered it in the Q&A, but people are asking if there's a website or something on the 61 point yoga nidra that they can learn more. So if you do know, Don, I can just put it in the chat box for them.
In the chat. It's in the
Yeah,
chat.
just
Swami,
put it in-
Swami
oh,
J.
it is. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank
Okay, Jayashree, if you want to open.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, my sister. You've always been a beacon of light.
Oh,
Thank you. I have two questions.
Mm.
You know, most of the times, practicing Sri Aurobindo and the mother, and we read Savitri, I used to have a lot of nightmares. How do you deal with nightmares? And especially, how do you work with them because you want to just run away? It's scary, these nightmares. And the second question I wanted to ask you is, I have read the Tibetan book of Living and Dying, and I wanted to know, of course, maybe we can take this question to tomorrow about the bardo state. Because when we talk of, being conscious of sleeping, actually, when we sleep, we die. So to be conscious then of the journey will also prepare us rather, a long time, so that when we die, we are conscious
Correct.
of those planes. So I would really appreciate first to deal with my nightmares.
I understand that. Yes, we have talked about that also. Yes, nightmares is an unfortunate experience. I'm sorry to say it that way. But I can understand the fear that comes up. And I was discussing this with Vladimir actually, and I'll ask Vladimir to step in here because I really liked his explanation of nightmares and why they happen. So, Vladimir, can you please share what we talked about? The nightmare coming in from the lower worlds, there's a crack, and Vladimir will explain. Please, Vladimir.
Yeah, well, we were discussing this because, as you said already, that we dream from different levels of consciousness and states of being, and this division on subliminal and subconscious is a very general division. Yes. And when we speak about subconscious, there are many forces which are rising and trying to take hold of us and use us as their, vehicles or get energy out of us. And usually we fall into those kind of underground domains through the crack, as Jayashree already mentioned. Crack is that in between worlds there is the entry from the subconscious and the superconscious realms, and these forces enter into us and they create in us those images or those experiences of different kind. By the way, yours, this nightmare is an experience of some kind. It's not just a memory of some subliminal thing. It is something which is like an attack, or you also anticipate the attack. Anticipation is also an attack somehow because you had this bad experience before, so you expect this to happen all the time, even in the case where it is not. In the suppose in the subconscious state, you will not be able to to even get that fear or that attack or nightmare, but you already anticipate it and you try to put it into that framework, and it is not happening. It happens to me all the time, that I anticipate some fear, some danger, and it is not happening. So I'm just there waking up in anticipation of the danger, but there is no danger. So, but there are also dangerous states, of course, and these nightmares, the forces try to come in the state of sleep. We are naked, as it were. We do not have full support of the mental foundation or the physical foundation. And so what we do first, we try to wake up. We try to come back to our fortress, physical body. Physical body is a protection. So once we are in this state, we are kind of held secure. So, or we have to wake up to the higher state, to the mental state, yes, that prajna which we mentioned, to the state of the mental awareness and perception, to the clarity of our own. So there are two foundations which are helping us in this nightmare process. Yeah, this is our mind and our physical. And when mind or physical are disturbed, we have a problem. These forces can come, and this is what we know in psychology as possession, as all those disturbances. Usually people lose either mind. That's why we call this mental hospital. So the mind cannot control the forces coming in, and it starts coming through the awakened state. You don't need to fall asleep anymore because the mind is not holding it. The body is disturbed, damaged. The brain is damaged physically, yes? And then you may have these forces coming in. So we are not very far away in our dream state from these nightmares. They can catch up with us even in the process of life. So these are few things which comes to mind when we speak about. And I myself went through many nightmares, and I know what they do and how they act and how I don't want them and how I run from them. And really, it's very difficult to face them because there is a habit of running. It's like already inbuilt some groove. But if we can really face them and have the strength of the mind or that higher consciousness in us to face them, it's a great victory, actually. I had one victory of this kind in my life, and I can't forget that. It was beautiful.
And I see you've opened your.
I thought I'd add something really quickly from my work. So two typical ways, it's very much in line with what Vladimir said. This is just for regular, people who aren't necessarily doing yoga. One is if you record the dreams and you see a theme, of course, is you can work out in your waking state, whatever the dream is, as Jayashree said beautifully earlier, that you have some issue. Could be you're seeing your children, but you're seeing them being hurt, in a terrible nightmare. You work that out in your waking state. The opposite end, of course, is the best one. Is if you can become aware in the nightmare, wake up, you just see, like Mother talks about one where this huge fierce tiger turns into a mouse, but that's advanced. So I'll tell you in the meantime, another way that works, it could be very powerful. I was doing pain management many years ago, and the woman said her 7-year-old son was having terrible nightmares. He couldn't sleep. And she said, would I see him? Well, sure. So I met with him and I said, what do you love doing? He said he loved skateboarding and he loved science fiction. So I was I'm waiting for an image to come, right? So I'm waiting to see what's coming up. And this image of Saturn came. I said, do you know what Saturn looks like? Oh, yes, it's so beautiful. Well, tonight when you go to sleep, imagine you have your skateboard and you're skating around the rings of Saturn. He looked so happy. And he stopped having nightmares after that. Now that's superficial, that's not going to end it. But if you do the working through and you pray to Mother beforehand, this is a nice stopgap. And yeah, I had a woman, I can't say much about it, she had severe PTSD from abuse, and she was a dancer. And I said, and she had some sense of meditation. And pirouettes are where you circle around. And I said, when you start feeling afraid, imagine that you're doing a pirouette and you're flying into the air. And she loved that idea. And she hadn't slept a full night in 2 months. And she said she slept fine after that and stopped having nightmares. So one is working through during the day. The best is becoming conscious yogic sleep. And in between is you can also pray to Mother and the joy, it's the positive part of the lower of the vital. If you find joy, that joy itself can attenuate the nightmares.
Thank you.
I can
Thanks,
share
Don.
one small thing on the nightmares with my daughter, who was small, and I was reading to her Ramayana, and she was all the time waking in the night and running to my bed saying, Papa, Rakshasas are everywhere, hiding behind the bushes. So I was always embracing her and sleeping with her, so she was finding kind of with me place. And then I told her, you try to remember in the dream this mantra. I taught her mantra. Shri Aravinda Sharanam Mama. Shri Aravinda is my protection. And she was so scared to go to sleep every time that she remembered the mantra. And she made it there. And she said, the Rakshasas disappeared. She was so happy. There were no more nightmares. So this could be also a very good way to do it.
Excellent, great. I think Jayashree, and I'll just mention to others, if you still have 10 or 15 minutes, you could stay with us. We have 3 more questions from people. And if attendees need to leave, we certainly understand, and it's being recorded, and you'll be able to get this on our website. And just to remind everyone that we do have tomorrow a whole hour with Jayashree at 10 o'clock, and the link is in the chat box. So join us, and it's very informal of sharing and chatting. I'll read a question before I get to Shifa and Rudayesh, if I pronounce that right. We did have a question in the Q&A box from Amikus, who doesn't have a speaker And so, and you can also just click on your Q&A box down there, Jayashree. It's a very long question. So I just, if you want to follow along, that I'll read it out for the audience. And it's a question also that I'm very interested in your answer. Amika says, apologies, but I don't have a microphone or camera set up. Here is the question. What is the difference between conscious sleep, lucid dreaming, conscious astral journeying, and astral journeying from a lucid dream? And is the astral realm journeyed to by Robert Monroe and others within the subliminal? This is an interesting question because I did the tapes from Robert Monroe many years ago, and it immediately took me into this astral journey that Amika mentioned. So I'm very curious as to that last question also. So I don't know if it's a big question. If you want to give some thoughts and ideas, that would be great, Jayashree.
Yes, it is a big question, but it's a very interesting question. I'm looking at it right now. What is the difference between conscious sleep, lucid dreaming, conscious astral journeying, and astral journeying from a lucid dream? And then it follows with, is the astral realm journeyed to by Robert Monroe and others within the subliminal? So there are actually 5 questions there. I will, because of the paucity of time and there are other people waiting, I'll just give a very brief answer here. We can take this up in detail later because it's a very valid question. Conscious sleep, like I said, is a yogic process. It's a shift in consciousness. Whereas lucid dreaming is to become awake in your dreams. There is a difference there because there also you are awakening and becoming conscious. But it differs from conscious sleep in the sense that conscious sleep is a yogic process. You get to it through meditation, through discovering your inner being and being with that inner being during the day. Whereas lucid dreaming happens at night during the dream state. Conscious astral journey is again a yogic practice where, like Sri Aurobindo says, you can consciously journey, and yes, you can journey in the subliminal to the higher reaches, which is a very advanced yogic stage. And then the normal astral journeying from a lucid dream is when you are kind of flying or you're going to another realm to meet up and do some work there. That is again different. So what I'm trying to say is there is a difference between all these states, slight difference, but very significant ones. And we'll discuss this in detail some other time, if you don't mind. I think there are some other questions, but I like the question. Let's hold it, keep it in our records, and we'll definitely come back to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayashree, and he's also asking about more details on the course. So we will be getting that out to everybody that's registered for this workshop as we kind of continue, or Jayashree continues to kind of flesh out the details and the timing. So it may be another 4 or 5 days before that email goes out, but anyone registered, you will be receiving that. And if you don't, you just reach out to us at Labras and we'll fill you in. With that, Shilpa, did you want to ask a question or make a comment, please?
Hello, Jayashree. Thank you so much. That's been really interesting. And also some of the answers somehow seem to have been also answered through the other questions. And with the last one, although I didn't know the words of lucid astral, it somehow connects a little bit to what I was going to ask about. I'm not still completely clear about subliminal. I'm struggling a little bit to understand it. And so, of course, the process of then getting into the conscious sleep of connecting with the subliminal is sort of getting a little bit over me. But what about recurring? It's like, I think it's what you were describing about as lucid, because it's like a few years, I've had the same recurring dream of people who I don't know, of train journeys, and going into rooms And it's the same one. So when it comes again, I know in my sleep I've seen it before.
Yes.
And sometimes it seems to kind of be a next passage, but I'm still not clear. But I recognize it's the same people who but it's not anybody I know, at least that I, kind of have been in touch with or anything on a regular basis. And it again makes me wonder. And then I've had what you've been saying about going into the subconscious, and that I can see that, yes, and that's the more restless sleep. These lucid ones, it doesn't bother me. It's like I'm kind of watching it like I'm watching a TV. And I feel almost like I'm smiling that, oh, okay, I've seen you again, you're familiar. And the same thing, but I have no idea what it means or how it connects. At least it's not like what you were saying about seeing your children when you were little or whatever. But so if you can elaborate, and maybe it's my understanding of subliminal and not getting it, that is not helping. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Your question has a number of components, actually. Firstly, you asked about the subliminal, and this is something we will take up in greater detail. Right now, just to give you an immediate something to think and mull about, first I wanted to ask you, are you into any kind of spiritual practice?
Yes, I've been kind of connected with Mother and Sri Aurobindo from a young age.
Perfect.
So for me, everything, it's fantastic, because everything only what in the light of Mother and Sri Aurobindo seems to be meaningful. And I feel anything else that comes is, of course, something they have sent to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will be discussing the subliminal. Subliminal is our inner consciousness, in which we live most of the time unconsciously. We are functioning from our subliminal, but we are doing it unconsciously. Everything, like I said, we think about our inspirations, our urges to action. Now I should go and do this, or I should go and meet up that one, or I need to call. These urges to action also come from the subliminal. So the subliminal is a vaster being just behind our external consciousness. And it is very vast, vaster than the subconscious. But the true nature of and function of the subliminal is very detailed, and we will be going into it on a later date. So for now, just hold that thought. I'll go to your next question, which is about recurring dreams. Dreams which come again and again, repeat themselves, actually are coming to give you a message. That's the general understanding. It's coming up again and again from the subconscious because there is something in it that you need to see. And for that, you'll have to look at each dream, examine it, maybe write it down and see what are the common images and symbols that come up. What is the mood in the dream? What do you take away from the dream? And then you will understand perhaps what is the direction in which it is pointing. But a recurring dream always implies there is a message behind that you need to look at perhaps and maybe take action on. Lucid dreaming is a dream where you are awake in the dream. So you're not just watching the dream, you are awake in the dream and you say, oh, I'm dreaming. This is a dream. That is a lucid dream. And the objects are whatever you see, landscape or anything, is the color is very vibrant, vivid, alive. I mean, if you look at the grass, you will see it throbbing with life. It won't be just a grassy patch. You'll actually see each blade of grass throbbing with life. So it is a very vibrant world, the subtle physical, and you awaken in that. And in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo describes that realm beautifully. How beautiful, it is the blueprint. The subtle physical is the blueprint to our external world. The external world is only a reflection of that. So you can imagine how beautiful in lucid dreaming, that is the kind of vision we see. So it's a very vibrant, awake state, but it's not yogic. it can be made part of everything is yoga. But you can arrive at lucid dreaming even if you're not doing a yogic practice. That's what I'm trying to say. So yes, I don't know if I've answered everything that you had, some questions, but I would say a recurring dream is different from a nightmare, and it is definitely sending you a message. Lucid dreaming, and then astral travel, when you come out of the body and you travel into different realms, that is the next step in dreaming. So we'll take these up later. Thank you for your
Jayashree, we have one more question. Varun Dayesh, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I apologize. But I know you've been patiently waiting. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question.
Hi. Rather, you pronounced it just perfectly, my name. It's a little difficult, but you did it well. I have a question, personal question. When I try to fall asleep, I try to find a state where I can still keep in touch from wakeness to sleep. I've never been able to do that. And then when I am in bed, it doesn't take me long to fall asleep. It's just about 10 seconds, I'm gone. The third thing is that when I sleep, I rarely get any dreams. And when I wake up, I'm awake. So is this different from what you're talking about, or can you?
No, it's not different. The nature of sleep is like what you said in your first sentence. I fall asleep. That is the nature of sleep. We all fall into a sleeping state. That is from the waking state, we turn and we become unconscious. That is the fall asleep state. And similarly, Sri Aurobindo says, when we wake up, again, there is a turning of the consciousness and we are awake. So ordinarily, that is what happens. So I won't say it's anything different. But in the yoga of conscious sleep, like I said, it is a yoga. It's a practice, it's a sadhana. So if you want to continue, like you were just expressing, you want to continue your waking consciousness into your sleep consciousness, then there is a meditation. There are certain preparations that have to be done if one is serious about being conscious in sleep. I'll give you one or two of them and you can see if you can incorporate it. It's very difficult generally for most people. One is, I don't watch TV before going to sleep. Because what happens is it stimulates the waking consciousness. It stimulates your vital and thinking to other things, to a nice story. If you're watching a movie, you get caught up with the emotions and etc., etc. And none of us are advanced yogis, at least I'm not, that I can turn my state of consciousness after watching a movie. So watching TV, I don't watch TV before I sleep. I don't engage in any kind of stimulating conversation over the phone or with anybody. I like to start quietening down. You kind of gradually get into the state of sleep by preparing your consciousness for it. You take it gently through its paces. You can't expect to get into a yogic state. I mean, even for meditation, if you practice meditation, you sit down, you relax your body completely, you start focusing your attention. There are these steps. If you have a mantra, you begin to chant the mantra and you're going inside. It's a sacred, very sacred activity. Conscious sleep is likewise a sacred activity. We have to prepare for it. The other thing, again, no TV. In the bedroom, do not keep any electrical devices because it interferes with the magnetic field around which you sleep. Use the bed only for sleeping, not for sitting and playing computer games or games on the phone. Or, you use, it's amazing how the mind works. The bed is meant to sleep in. If we sit in the bed and we do other activities, it'll be difficult for the body, physical consciousness to understand now you want to sleep. When you get to the bed, it'll think, oh, wants to read something or play some games or, take their time. So we have to work with our consciousness and then invoking the Mother and Sri Aurobindo's presence through prayer, through aspiration, setting an intention. Mother, I want to be conscious. Please help me, be with me. Let me be in your consciousness. Stay with me, protect me in my sleep, protect the area around your bed. Because when we sleep, like Vladimir said, we are not in control of anything. All kinds of forces can come to us. So we sanctify with our intention the area around the place where you sleep. So I'm going to go into these preparations in more detail later, just to give you a little bit of, there are some preparations one has to do. Otherwise, it is difficult to just turn around and say, oh, I want to be conscious in my sleep, and then a few seconds later, you're fast asleep. That is
So, if is dreaming essential to be in
yes,
a
that's
conscious
a good
state?
question. We all dream. We dream throughout the night. And if you say that you are not dreaming, it's just that you're not remembering your dreams. So one starts becoming conscious of one's nights by becoming conscious of one's dreams first. So set an intention. And the hand is an instrument of the mind. So if you write it down, the message goes to the subconscious. So if you write down in a dream journal that tonight I will be conscious in my dreams. It may not happen the first time. Sri Aurobindo says it will take maybe a couple of nights, but soon the subconscious will get the message. So it is good to write it down in a journal, keep it by your bedside, and write on it every night diligently till you begin to start remembering your dreams. And that will happen. But you are dreaming. There is no such thing as no dreaming. Everybody's dreaming. The only thing is you are going so deep into the subconscious that you cannot record the dream. When you wake up, you forget about it because the distance traveled is so much.
So is it good or bad to go so deep?
There's no good or bad. There's nothing good or bad. Good or bad are dualities of the mind. It's just something that's happening. We need to, now you're conscious about it. Now we need to take action to start coming up, to start changing that situation. If you want to. Again, it's your choice.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Jayashree, and especially thank you for staying on so long. Before we leave, we've just been getting a couple chats and a couple emails here. People wanting to know a little bit more about your course. I know you're still in the middle of developing it, but would you like to just share a few words about the upcoming course?
Yes, definitely. Why not? So we designed this course. I worked very closely with Radhe and Vladimir, and we decided to offer 10 classes to begin with, starting sometime in October, maybe November, I don't know, depending. And then we will go into the details of all that I have said today. So we'll go into the details of what is conscious sleep, what does it entail, the preparations for conscious sleep, what Sri Aurobindo and the mother have said, why it is a yoga, why it is a necessary yoga, not just a yoga, but it's necessary to the integral yoga. And then we will look at the subliminal in great detail, the subconscious, the inner and outer beings. We will also look at the Upanishads, because there's lots been said in the Mandukya Upanishad, the Katha Upanishad. So we will look into all these Upanishads, and Vladimir will be co-hosting with me, all those deeper parts. We look into readings from Savitri, where Sri Aurobindo has talked so much about the dream state. We look at differences between dreaming, trance, meditation. What are the states of sleep, trance, meditation? And it is said in the ancient scriptures that we live these states, the 4 states of consciousness, we live those 4 states even during our waking state, which means we experience trance even in our waking state. So isn't it interesting to know what is this trance and how I have lived so unconsciously of my trance state? Every time you focus and concentrate on any work, you are in a trance, because your total consciousness and attention is focused, and that is what is a trance, to the exclusion of everything else. So we go into a trance state number of times during the day. I just gave a little example. So we look at these states, and what else? Over the top of my head, we will be reading Savitri and readings from Savitri a lot. And we will look at dreams and what dreaming means. Who is it that dreams? What are dream messages? And how we can change a dream experience into a realization. How dream transforms from an experience to a realization in the subliminal. So it's the transformation of the dream state itself. In brief, I can think about these things only over the top of my head right now. But there will be 10 classes, it will be spread out over the 10, and then we'll see where we want to take it further.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I just put in the chat, if anybody of you that are on that would like to email me at rade@lacrossecenter.com and just let us know you're interested, we'll make sure you get information. But everybody on this call who registered should get it. And it just sounds absolutely wonderful, Jayashree. I can't wait to be part of the course. And I know, yeah, you and Vladimir have been kind of working through this over the past month. So very much looking forward to it. And we just thank you so much again for sharing your wisdom and your practice and coming here for well over an hour and being with us. And we look forward to tomorrow for even more discussion and sharing. Vladimir, would you like to just say a few words before we close?
Well, that was just marvelous. Truly speaking, it's beyond all expectations. Very systematic, very clear, very calm. It's like a dream state. I wanted to say we are dreaming not only in the night, we are dreaming also during the day non-stop. The daydreamers, yes. We are shifting consciousness from one topic to another, from one dialogue, inner dialogue to another, from one imagination to another. So we are dreamers non-stop. Only in the night we are dealing with it directly without physical consciousness. Otherwise, physical even does not disturb us much during the day. 90% we are living inside, and we are watching movies, reading books, listening to the news. This is all this kind of, it's not a wakeful state. It's some kind of semi-wakeful state, semi-dream. So it is so valuable for us to learn about ourselves. It's more learning about our consciousness, as Sri Aurobindo said. It's rather other way around. Wakeful state is a dream, and the deeper state of the dream, subliminal, is our true state of consciousness, about which we have to learn. And we are looking forward very much to your course and presentations, and very happy to do this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's a subject close to my heart, and I lay it at the mother's feet. Thank you.
Thank you all for staying with us and hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you again, Jayashree.
Thank you, Radhe.
Namaste.